Hello, my name is Monica Kurtz. I'm an education specialist at Region 13, and we're going to talk a little bit this afternoon about neuromyths. Our assignment this week was to read an article and do some research, so I decided to research on educational neuromyths themselves and why are they so persistent. I began by reading the article Neuroscience for Educators, What Are They Seeking and What Are They Finding by Hook and Farah. This is what led me on my journey into the neuromyth vortex, right? They're concerned that educators are buying into myths without enough neuroscience education to sort of fill in the gap. So let's see what happens. Well, from Elena Pasquinelli's article, Neuromyths, Why Do They Exist and Persist? She says that neuromyths come about in three ways. The first is that they are simplifications of scientific results. For example, that there is such a thing as left brain, right brain balance, which there isn't, I'm here to tell you, or actually Miss Pasquinelli's here to tell you. Second is that they're the offspring of a scientific hypothesis. For example, remember the Mozart baby craze from the 90s? That came from a study that was done on adults, which showed in one study that adults did better on IQ tests after listening to Mozart. There were never any tests done with babies, and there was never any evidence that it would work on infants. But there was a whole heck of a lot of money to be made from forcing your kid to listen to Don Giovanni, right? Not that there's anything wrong with Don Giovanni. And they also may be misinterpretations of experimental results. For example, the thought that there's no other period other than the first 3 years of life that are as good for learning new things. That's a complete myth. In fact, your brain is good at learning until the day you die. So that's good for us adult learners, right? Because otherwise, what are we doing? So they're hard to get rid of. They are capable of surviving even in the face of the circulation of new information that proves them wrong. So even when they are debunked by more scientific experiments, they're hard to kill off, like roaches. In an article that came from the website The Education Elf, titled Science or Pseudoscience, Prevalence of Neuromyths, they found that 80% of teachers believed in neuromyths. For example, the learning style neuromyth, which says that we all have a learning style that we are more prone to. For example, kinesthetic learning, visual learning, audio learning. That again is simply not true. And that teachers with higher knowledge and more time in the field were more likely to believe in the neuromyths, which is hard to comprehend. Right? We obviously need more teacher training. But I think what happens is that teachers go to workshops or conferences and then they come back and they try these things and they see results. Probably because the kids are just more engaged because they're changing things up. But that makes things hard to debunk, right? If you see results from your brain-based learning or whatever it is, and it could just be the newness and the interest factor is increased, but it's hard to tell people then that it doesn't work. And in fact, speaking of brain-based learning, that is a huge, huge industry. And Luminosity, one of the biggest peddlers of brain-based learning, was actually forced to pay billions of dollars back in 2016 to the FTC because of false advertising. In fact, if you play their games for 15 minutes a day, you're not going to get any smarter. Sorry. So you can actually take the quiz that the article mentions, the article from the Education Elf website. It's called Test My Brain, and it's at testmybrain.com. It's a Harvard-based research where you can go and take the exact same quiz. It's 32 statements of neuromyths, and you can see how you stand up to other people in the field. I got 27 out of 32, which is very good, but I think it's because I've been studying this for so many days. So in the end, most neuromyths are harmless. Most neuromyths that are floating around education aren't going to hurt our students. They may make learning more interesting, but they certainly shouldn't be taken as fact. Some neuromyths are dangerous. For example, the relationship between autism and vaccinations, right? Even though that has been disproven for many, many years, there are still people who don't want to vaccinate their kids. So I hope that you've gotten a little information this afternoon, and I thank you for your attention. Goodbye.